Hello, welcome to Handmade by Julia Quinn. This is an unscheduled, spontaneous Facebook Live because I've had a request from someone for some hints and tips for successful stamping. This is a new stamper. She hasn't done very much, so she just would like some hints and tips. So I thought probably the easiest way is to do a little video and send her the link, but I thought maybe you might be interested as well if you're here. So I am making a card that I have not made before, so this is totally off the bat, made up as I'm going along, which is not usually my style. I prefer to have things all planned and organised ahead of time, so this is different for me. But I'm going to use this True Beauty stamp set, and I've got a couple of pieces of cardstock here. This is for the front of my card and the inside of my card. The first thing I will say when you're stamping, so I've mounted up a couple of stamps ready to go. First thing I will say is that it's important that your stamp's already clean. If they already have residue on it, it can affect your stamped image. And also when you have brand new ink pads, they are really, really juicy. I usually tell my new stampers the best way to ink up a stamp is to pat, 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 pat. You only want to get ink on the raised surface of your stamp. That is where the image is. That's where the clear, clean edges of the image are. If, as a lot of people are tempted to do, you rock in your ink pad in the mistaken idea that you're going to get a lot more ink that way, if you push in really hard or rock, you're going to end up with ink all around the outside edge. So that when you stamp, and I'll just show you here, and rock on it, you'll end up, oh well, no, you won't, but you can end up with edges all around your image which affect the clearness of your image. The other thing is you get your best stamping on a padded surface rather than on a flat table, especially with our photopolymer stamps, which are clear and require, for example here, because they're only very thin, very, very thin, and they don't have the foam layer of our red rubber stamps. They just need a bit more give from a piercing mat to give them a nice, clear, crisp image when you're stamping. Okay, so this was going to be my B side of my stamping, but because I did such a stellar job of that one, I'm going to continue to see if I can create my card, knowing that I can always turn it over later on because cardstock is always double-sided. What I'm doing here is just adding a mask. Is that the right way? Yes, I think so. Adding a mask onto my flower so that I can stamp over the top of it to create a bunch of flowers with this lovely Awash with Beauty stamp set. So this time I'm going to use the rose and stamp my rose there in Mango Melody, and I might also stamp my rose in Flirty Flamingo over this side. Okay, now I'm going to add a mask to the back of my rose here as well, so that I can stamp some leaves on my image. Here we go. So that's where the rose goes. I'll just cover up my ink pads and bring in my Pear Pizzazz. And again, stamping, pat, 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 pat. And then when you actually stamp, you go straight down, push in the middle, and lift straight up. Okay, again, pat, 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 pat. No pushing into the ink pad, gentle with the ink pad, just pat, 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 pat. You can keep patting until you get plenty of ink on your image, but patting is the way to go. But then when you go to stamp on your surface, you push straight down, push in the middle, and lift straight up. Okay, I'm just going to move my mask over onto my rose this side. Here we are, so I can pop some more leaves over here. Pat, 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 pat. Straight down, straight up. All right, let's have a look. Oops. Take all of my mask off there. And here's my mask for this one. Just lift up very carefully. Hello, Lynette. Just lifting up my mask very carefully there. There we go. So, can you see here? I've made a little error. I have obviously pushed too hard in the ink pad and ended up with that line I was talking about there. Now I can do a couple of things. I can make sure that's where I put something over the top of. For example, when I stamp my greeting on a separate piece of paper, I can cover that up. Or I can flip it over and start again, which I might do so that you can see more stamping, just to get the idea a bit more. Okay, and I'll try and do it the right way this time. So pat, 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 pat. Just make sure I've got ink there. When you stamp, straight down, push in the middle, straight up. Okay, I might put my mask back on. Got to try and work out which way it goes now. This way, I think. This is our fabulous masking paper. I'm going to do another polished pink. Pat, 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 pat. Stamp straight down, push in the middle, give it a bit of time, lift straight up. Alright, and now, I love the roses, so I do have to do some roses on my card with Mango Melody, which is one of my favourite colours. Right, pat, 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 pat. Straight down and straight up. And then another Mango Melody rose over here. Straight down, straight up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's an odd number of flowers. I think I need another flower in here somewhere. So I'll use my mask on my rose. There we go. And I'll add another flower up in this corner here. And for that one I'll use Flirty Flamingo, I think. And I'll use this little flower again. Pat, 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 pat. Straight down, straight up. Alright. And now I can create some leaves for around my image. Here we go. With the Pear Pizzazz, that's as where my masks are, so I'll stamp there first. Straight down, straight up. Alright, now I need to move my mask. Just peeling that off very carefully. And pop it over here. Where's the edge of this? There's this edge of my flower. And pat, pat, pat. Make sure I don't have ink on the edges like I did earlier. And then stamp straight down, straight up. And then I can take that mask off. And this little flower. Peel the edge off that. My poor old mask is getting a bit tatty looking. I think I need some more leaves over here, so I'll just pop my mask back down again. Oops. And pop some down there. Let's have a look. Make sure I choose the right petals so I don't rip the thing in half. There, I think that's probably enough now. Clean my stamps. It's always important that you clean your stamps so that you always have the right colour when you're stamping. Okay, now I'm going to put Just Because on here with Rich Razzleberry, just to make it a basic card. And this is a really dark colour, so this will be the test of my stamping skills. So words notoriously attract extra ink on them because we want to make a clear image. So this is very important, where you just pat. I'm only using a very light touch, but I'm patting repeatedly to get more ink on my image. So I have ink only on the actual raised surface of my red rubber. Sometimes if you get extra, you can wipe it off perhaps with a little wipe or your finger. Okay, so patting and then lining up my words. Go straight down, just push in the middle, no rocking of the block, just holding it and then lift straight up. Okay, Just Because. Now if that didn't work out, my other tip is grab a spare bit of cardstock and stamp it on there and stick it over. Okay, you can always cover things up with extra cardstock. That's the beauty of using paper. It is only paper and it works quite nicely, so I can add that as well as a little feature on my card. There you go. Check in. I'll finish off this card and you can see what it looks like on my next post. I hope that's helpful for you. Bye bye now.